Hi, this is Susan Fine coming to you from inside of Canvas. And in this tutorial video, I'm going to show you how you can embed a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet into Canvas. And the beauty of doing this is that these documents end up functioning just like any other Google Doc in that you can update them and a group of people can all participate and update them or use them. And all of those changes will happen in Canvas as well. You're going to link it so that anything you do in that document, whether within Canvas or through your folders in Google Docs or in your Drive, it will the documents will just continually update. So it's really quite a wonderful thing to do. And in fact, there are advantages to using Google Docs over using a table inserted in Canvas. A Canvas table, you set it at the beginning in terms of its size, in regards to rows and columns, and that's it. You can't go back in and change it later. You have to take it down and create a new one. So that's a huge difference, and I think you're going to find that using Google Docs for tables or using spreadsheets will be much easier for you and more flexible. So what we're looking at right now is a Gantt chart that I made as part of a sample module, which I did use content from our fiction class for. So this is an example in front of you of, it's a content page in terms of the kind of, Canvas content. And into that content page, I first put some instructions. I used the, text editor to put in some instructions, and then I did the embedding of what is a Google Doc with a table inserted in it. And I think this looks pretty good. You have some nice options when you go to the table properties inside of the Google Doc for using color and changing your typeface, changing your font if you want to do that. The thing that you can't do, which you can do in a spreadsheet, is you see the lines between all of the different columns and rows. In a spreadsheet, you can merge the cells and get rid of that. I've linked the cells by color, but my lines, I don't know that you can get rid of that in a table. If anybody knows, I'd love to know about that. But I think it might just be with a spreadsheet that that you can do that. So just another moment here on this particular Gantt chart. You can see I put in the dates and the various assignments and stretched them, over the days if they extended beyond one day. In some cases they're 2, in some cases they're 5. But I put in all the different pieces and parts and then used color to tie it together. And you'll note too that I put in these instructions up top. Take note of key dates and add them to your individual planners. And then I, again, try to reinforce you, I'm sure getting familiar with this, redundancy is so critical in an online setting, but please schedule time every day to engage fully with your classmates and your work for the class. So that I could all put there. But now let me show you an example of a spreadsheet embedded into a Canvas class. So here we are now looking at a Google spreadsheet that I have embedded into the big history class that we are running with 3 member schools this year. And I did want to have some instructions. This is a document of big history course learning outcomes that the 5 teachers involved in this class So here we are inside this Google spreadsheet where what I did at the top was I merged a series of cells at the very top so that I could put instructions in. So you get, below is a spreadsheet, and please read through these outcomes and add your ideas and that sort of thing. And you can see that there are different columns for each of the participants, each of the teachers who are participating. And, you can look down and see how some of us have started to put in comments. One thing I might add is this doesn't display the whole spreadsheet, and you have to move around and back and forth, and that can be a little bit clunky, a little bit messy. You always have the option of clicking on the title at the top, and that will take you straight into the spreadsheet within, your Google Documents, and then you can see things much better. Of course, at that point you've left Canvas, so there are benefits and I guess a downside to these things, but this to me makes it easier to manage the information and to work in the spreadsheet. So now we're at the critical question of how do you in fact embed a Google document into Canvas. And this is in fact what you're seeing on the screen now is the Canvas instructional guide on doing this very thing. And this is what I used to learn how to do this myself. So I do think this is a great source of information. What I'm hoping happens in this video is, one, you really see step-by-step how to do this, but also I think I've been able to add, here are some of the benefits of using the table versus the spreadsheet. Here's the downside of the Canvas table. I think there's some subtlety and some, particular details that this doesn't capture that I hope this video will capture. However, this is a pretty good guide and it will get you where you need to go. So, first off, they say create a Google document. Okay, so here I am inside a Google document that I've created. That was the first step, was to create the Google document or the Google spreadsheet. And then what you want to do is come up into your file menu and pull down to where you see publish to the web. So I'm going to publish this to the web. Now, you have a couple options you want to check. You want to make sure that it's clicked that you will automatically republish when changes are made. That's pretty self-explanatory, and it means that if you change the Google document, it will be updated everywhere and where it exists and all that. Now I click this button called Start Publishing. And it's asking me, am I sure I want to publish this document? Yes, I do. So there we go. You'll see that you end up getting a link to the published document, but you also get what's called the embed code. And that is some critical information that you're going to want to copy as I'm doing. So I'm going to highlight all of that and copy it. And I will use that to change the code or to add to the code inside of Canvas. And then you'll see how I then have my document there. So, okay, so here we are back in Canvas, and I'm going to do something with that code that I have. So the first thing I need to do, just like so many things, is I need to add some content. And in this case, I am going to use a content page, and it's a new page, and we're going to call it Unit 2 Assignments, and we're going to add that item. So now I will pop that one open, and I'm going to let myself edit this page, and here I am in that page. There's nothing here, and now the rich text editor has popped up. What I need to do to be able to do that is I need to come over here, and where it says HTML editor, I'm going to click on that, and I am going to now be working within the HTML code. And actually what might make this easier to see is, let me go back to the visual editor and let me just write in some instructions. Here are all the assignments for Unit 2. I'll just put that in, okay? So now let's go to the HTML editor, and you can see how you're in the code now, and you've got various symbols at the beginning and the end which are telling it to display this as a paragraph, and we're going to move down here, and now I am going to paste in the embed code that I got from the Google Doc. And let's save the changes. And this is not what we want. Rats. That was actually a great mistake. So I am going to not fix the video. I'm going to leave it in there, but you can see if you look at what I put in there saying, oh, let me put the embed code in for you, I actually put in just a link to that document, which I had used to try something before doing the video. But now I'm going to do it correctly. I went back and I got the right embed code. So I'm going to go back into the HTML editor and I am going to paste it in. And again, you can tell once you've started to look at this HTML code, it looks a certain way. And what I put in there before didn't look this way. So I should have known right then and there that I didn't have the right information. But you can see this looks a lot like code, right? So this, I hope, will work. So let's save changes and let's see how it works. Okay. Look at how terrible that looks. That is not what you want. So, how did I fix this before? I remember. Let's go back into edit this page. And you can see how it's displaying in the editor, but let's go back into the HTML editor. And here you can see that it says width 320, height 240. And I'm sure there's some excellent, simple way to know exactly what you want this to be, but mine looks so small that I'm thinking, let's take that up to 640. And let's take this one up to 480, and I'm just going to see how that works. I will just tinker around and see. So I've saved the changes. Oh, that's looking better. That is looking better. Okay, so it looks like I have too much space here. I can clean that up easily. That's not a big deal, but this is looking more like what I want. I don't think it's perfect yet, and so what I would do now is I'd go in and I would try several other numbers and I would tinker around. I think I'd go into the table in the Google Doc, I'd do it there, and I'd go into table properties and I'd put some color in, and I think I would, I could change the font if I wanted to, but I think I would sort of snazz it up a bit. But I would say first and foremost, getting the size just the way you want it by changing up the dimensions in the code is where I would start before I got fancy with anything else. So this is an example of how to embed the code for the Google Doc into a Canvas content page, and then again you'll have a dynamic document that you can change either in Canvas or in your Google Doc in your Drive, and it will change in both places or anywhere this document is, and will save you a lot of time. So the final thing I want to show you is how you can create an external URL with the Google Doc and display it that way in Canvas, which some of you may find this is a lot easier. It displays larger, so there are various advantages to this, but I just encourage you to think about what the purpose is, how it's going to be used, what will make things easiest and clear to kids as you consider these different options. So here I am back in the Google Doc. Now, one key thing that you've got to do is to ensure that your sharing characteristics are right. Because if I put this in right now, you can see that I am the owner and Jake Clapp I have shared it with and he has permission to edit it. Well, that's not going to let any of you look at it. It's not going to let my students look at it. So I need to change that. It's easy to forget this. I do it myself with some frequency, and people then write and say, I don't have access. So remembering this is good. Anyone with the link is the way to go. So let's save that. So we've changed the sharing properties, and now everyone who gets to it in Canvas should be able to do it. Now I'm going to copy the URL here. I'm going to go back into my course. This is the big history one. I am now going to create a piece of content. I am going to make this an external URL. I'm going to paste that link there. I'm going to call this Unit 2 Assignments, and I'm going to add the item. All right, so there it lives now. You see we've now got it in two ways. We've got it as the embedded Google Doc that I did with the code, and now we've got it as an external URL. Let me click on that, And voila, there it is. And you know, this is a pretty big, robust looking document, and it looks pretty great. And I think, you know, if I were doing a Gantt chart for my students, I might just put that in within a content page, because that I doubt anyone but me is going to be fooling, you know, putting information into it, adding content. This this actually is a document that mostly the teachers will deal with. But if you have something that the kids are going to use and interact with, this external URL display is pretty great. And as I noted before, you can use some cells to put in instructions if that's what you want to do. So I hope this is helpful, and do use the instructor guides because they're quite good.